Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Monday Masterminds, and today is Wednesday. We have moved our call to Wednesday today. Sean and Sean, thanks for taking the time today. And as normal and usual and abnormally, we are discussing all things health, all things training, all things human. And today's conversation topic is the holistic approach to health. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Sean and Sean. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, yo.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming together. This is awesome.
Yeah, and today we were talking about what we really wanted to dive into and discuss today. And Mr. Hickmeister was talking about the holistic approach and how, there's certain diets out there and they work for some people and not for others, and how there's just such a myriad of health information out there. And some of it works for people, some of it doesn't. And how do we really understand and know what's going to work for us?
Yeah. The way I kind of perceive it is when we get motivation, we'll cling on to a program or a certain teacher and really go full in on that. And if that's not quite right for us, we get discouraged. And we say, well, why did I even try? Rather than taking a more incremental approach and implementing some things, seeing how it works, keeping what works and letting go of what doesn't. And over time, you become percentage-wise a little bit better every day. But if you look at the compound interest, you become a lot better, a lot faster, rather than trying to dive into one thing or another. Just apply what you learn as you learn it. And if it doesn't work, fail fast and move on to the next thing. And if it does work, continue to implement it and work with other things as far as your strength training, your diet, getting in touch with nature, getting rest. Yeah.
This is one of the big reasons why Sean and I, we don't really teach people protocols or programs. With our principles-based approach that we focus on, we share principles and we share essentials, and the form always follows. So that's not to say that we don't guide people with specific movements or specific choices. And we would rather have clients and students find their own expression with the principles that we teach. One of the biggest tools that we like to teach with is the lifestyle map, which is the 8 essentials, which is purpose, belief, relationships, rest, prayer, meditation, nourishment, which includes hydration, getting outside, and movement. And with this principles framework, this blueprint, I like how you used that word yesterday, Sean, in our talk, people can then discover the form that works best for them. So then we can go through this trial and error, so to speak, and compare, contrast, and see what really works for us, as opposed to regurgitating a program that is somebody else's. I noticed early on in my career, teaching and sharing information, is that I'd write out programs for people and nobody would do them. And I had to kind of change that quickly because it was a waste of time and energy. So it's really about what the client and the students really want to take on. So it's up to us as the teachers to ask people questions so they can take something on.
Exactly. And that's where the question is really important. Like, what are intention? Then becoming really clear on what our intention is really helps us set the stage for everything, And I feel like it's been in the belief or the dogmas that have gotten us confused, as a society and community. So the more we can really dial in our intention and why we're actually doing something, not rooted in a maybe or probably, but a definitive absolutely, then we really start moving in the right direction in terms of working on the essentials, because we know exactly why we're doing what we're doing. And it's not conjecture. It's not a question of why, but it's an affirmative absolute. And we move accordingly.
Yeah. Well, to kind of speak into that for a moment is it is like that's why purpose is number one, the essentials, like in the hierarchy structure, and hierarchy in the sense it's like the number one in the sequence. Like when you have a clear, definitive definition of what your purpose is, like your belief, your relationships, all that, all the what shows up. And then that really kind of takes order, and then you can really understand what your possibility looks like and what your purpose and your intention is. And also for all you people out there who are evolving quickly, this doesn't mean that it can't change. And I find it really relevant and important for us to be concise and specific and personal in a given moment so that we can actually take action on that. Doesn't mean it has to necessarily be written in stone. We can always change it later. And it's important that we can do that so that we actually take action and we actually are focused with our intention. Um, and also, it's like taking those small steps. Hickmeister, you were talking about that, being all in. I've noticed that a lot of the reasons why people fail is because they do too much too fast. Whether you're starting a business, whether you're starting an exercise program, whether you're starting to eat clean, whatever that means for you, it's like people come from this place of like, I've never done any of this, or I've done very little of it. And then they want to like do so much of it. And I always tell the people I'm working with, it's like, if it's sustainable, then do it. If it's not, then it's not going to work. So if you've never worked out in your life and like you're like, I'm going to work out 7 days a week for 3 hours a day, it's like, that's not sustainable for you. Like, so I almost say, do the smallest thing that you can do and be consistent with it and build from there. And that creates sustainability.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people, especially nowadays, there's such a saturation with advice and mentorships and programs that you can hear multiple different contradicting advice and programs. And really, that's the benefit of Twice as Fit is we're not your gurus. You're your own guru. And as you implement these simple things and you dabble in these certain things, you can become your own guru and really feel into, and there's going to be signs of improvement, and you just got to lean into what works.
And you brought up a really good point about that is we're not your gurus, like we are our own gurus. And that's where like walking the fine line of our intention, we got to be careful because when we get into the deification and the idols, it's not that we don't look up to people. Of course we do. We look to each other for inspiration, but there's a certain threshold where we're starting to get too much power because we expect someone else to do it for us. And that's the whole belief dogma system that we all know a lot about. So we got to be really focused and heart simple about what our purpose and intent is. And like you guys are saying, then all of a sudden the floodgates open and the how is going to be available to us because we're living in alignment with the flow of our life's purpose and what we truly love. And when we do that and we keep it simple, the complexities of the universe start unveiling themselves. And there's a huge component of trust to it too. We're definitely in a space on Earth right now where we really are in uncharted territory. And a lot of what we're going to do is just going to have to be trusting. And when we are and we're loving, we can fall back. We don't have to fall back on. We can walk confidently in grace because we're living in our heart. And when we trust, then the path will unfold beautifully for us and those around us, if that's what our affirmation is.
On the button, Sean. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you for that, man. That was awesome. That was fantastic.
Well, gang, it's like we are going into unprecedented times, and like as the old saying goes, like there is nothing new under the sun. So like what I like to say is that science, like real science, it's discoverable. It's not done in a lab and it's not based on evidence. It's discoverable, and obviously evidence is part of that. And it's like that's why what we're talking about, it can apply to anybody. Like, and it's just how it lands to people is the difference and the distinction. In real science, nature, natural law, whatever you want to call it, it's all discoverable. So it's like what I find myself thinking about for myself and others, it's like, where am I and where are you in the rhythm of your life and with the collective rhythm? And so what is that going to look like for you in this now moment? Does it look like eating vegan? Does it look like eating carnivore? Does it look like getting 9 hours of sleep a night? Does it look like taking 2 naps a day? Does it look like working out an hour a day? Like, well,
Mhm.
that's up to you to decide based on your rhythm. And that's what I love about training, is because you're taking this time voluntarily and choosing to develop yourself and your skills and abilities so that you can really develop your competence physically and otherwise. And that's really the name of the game. And no one can do that work for you. So we are coming into an uncharted time where it's like, the systems that are at work, like, they're designed to help and guide people, but they've become too much of a crutch for a lot of society, and we've gotten very comfortable. So now is like a calling of, like, it's time to really be responsible, and you got to make your own bed. Because if we keep establishing safety for if we keep establishing safety for comfort, you're going to lose both, and that's just kind of like human nature. Um,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah, that's it. That's it, man. On the
Well,
nose.
a big part of it too is we really have to learn how to be our own source and trust ourselves. And it's really important that we talk with people and communicate, but always coming back to our internal focus and hearing our true inner voice, so that because there's going to be things that can't really describe with words, and then it's like, isn't that interesting? You were talking about nature, and we actually just observe nature. How much of nature besides humans is really in the English language? None of it. Not a single drop of it is in the English language. So a big part of the essentials is learning to listen and listening to people, but also not talking so much, and really taking the time to observe silence so we can really listen. And then within the silence, the truth can finally speak. And then we can be more clear with the words, the thoughts that we even want to project in this body. And we really realize how powerful they are. So really focusing that with listening is really important.
well, this is all part of the holistic approach. And when we do listen, we can actually speak. And when we speak, it actually is something of value. And then we can really have robust
Mm-hmm.
conversations. But, being a human, a huge component of it is communicating. And, just to go back to the holistic approach, a big part of healing is witnessing and communicating, and then distilling down and, like, what have I learned from this situation or experience? And that requires communication, whether it's verbal or nonverbal or both. Um, I find too, to go back to this holistic approach, it's like, you go to some conventional doctors and they don't really listen and they don't really hear you. They prescribe and they diagnose, which is fine in their model, but it's not really working for health terms and that kind of thing. It's like, so learning how to really communicate well and not use our words frivolously is super important. Big part of the holistic approach. Because what we talk about, we give energy to, and what we give energy to becomes our behavior, and behaviors become habits, and habits become who we are. And we aren't what we say we are. We are what we do.
Yeah. I would say let the results speak for themselves. And when we have a conversation, let it be with our environment. It's like, okay, question. If I eat this diet versus this diet, what is going to be the answer? Try it, see what your results are. And then you modify your inputs based on the equation that is natural law. We get what we put out. So as we put these inputs, we're going to get different outputs and different results. So just try all these different things. And as you learn them, you're going to get feedback. You're going to get answers, and you're going to feel better. Or you're going to feel worse. It's pretty, binary. So stick with what works and let go of what doesn't. And, this place is really amazing. There's so many people to learn from, and, people that are willing to teach and eager to teach. And it's about, small incremental, it's like, well, I heard that food at the grocery store is not good. Okay, what are you doing about it? Can you grow your own food? Try it. You don't have to buy 10 acres and grow your own food that way. You can grow food in a flower pot on a windowsill. Try that. What does it take? Hey, that was really easy. Maybe I could scale this up a little bit.
It's interesting, like the starting small thing. One of my personal examples is the sustainability project that I've been working on for the past year and a half. And the gardener, the farmer rather, the gardener, the teacher, really, he's really just a teacher. I've worked with him once a week for a year. And when I go over there once, it's like, we lay mulch or we turn the compost or I cut down some buckthorn. And like when I take that very like zoomed in approach, it's like I really haven't done much of anything. And then like I zoom out and I look at what him and I and amongst a few other people at times, and I think about what I've done and I reflect on it, it's like, wow, like we've done a lot of work. And I've only
Mhm.
gone there once a week, like anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. So, and like now I really have not only do I have a passion for this, but I'm really good at these certain things. So it's like, we live in this world that's so quick. We want to do things so quick. Like you can make $1 million overnight. You can do this crash course that gives you a master's and blah 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 in a weekend. And it's just like, what are we rushing towards? Like it's such pathological thinking. And like the holistic approach, like to come back to that, it's like enjoy the process. Like you can have your results and your outcome. And it's just like once you start to recognize, like looking at the whole bigger picture and the perspective, it's like the outcome and the result is just a part of the process. And you start to see the rhythm of things, and it's just a part of the process. And I find that it brings me more to peace with things because I'm not living for an outcome or I'm not living for a certain moment. Rather, I'm living for the experience and I'm looking at the whole perspective of things.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. Another good example is Twice as Fit. When Sean and I started this 11 years ago, like we had maybe like one or two clients, like one or two students that we saw and we shared information with. And it's like for the first few years, it was like that. Then like it took like exponential turns when we started having the conversations more, but it took time. It's like compound interest. It doesn't seem like much at first, but when you keep doing what you really like to do and you're consistent with it, it always pays off in one way or the other, and most likely in both ways, in all the ways.
I'd be willing to say that if you're not doing what you love, don't expect things to happen quickly. If you do what you love, then there is processes for sure, but there's gonna be a feeling and a sense of moving a lot quicker than you would be otherwise. If you're doing a job that you really don't like and you're just half-assing it, I've been there. Things go very, very slowly. And so I like enjoying the process, yes, and like expect quantum leaps when you're doing what you love, because that's the flow of the universe and the flow of nature. Like it is fast and it just is swift. Not that it's in a rush,
Mhm.
it's just getting things done and it has a certain flow to it. So, when we do what we love, there will be a swiftness to it.
I also think an important caveat to that too is like sometimes we'll do things in the pursuit of what we love. We'll do some things that we might not necessarily want to do, and they also help us continue to do what we love to do. And I think that that's an important notion. But there's a difference between like, hey, like I don't really want to do coal mining because it's not healthy and like I'm really not built for it. Like we're not talking about something like that. It's like in the pursuit of what you love, you're definitely going to have to do things you don't necessarily want to do. And I think
Or
that that brings it back to like the humility and gratitude. And then as we continue to do the things that we love to do, there's always going to be components it's like, this isn't my favorite part. At least that's been my experience. And I've
Mm.
also noticed is that the things that we're avoiding, that's actually a lot of the times the work that we have to do in order to keep doing what we love to do. I heard that quote recently, and I thought that that was brilliant. So for the people who are listening in and they're trying to heal or they're taking the holistic approach, a good place to start is the things that you're avoiding that you really don't want to do. Like look at those things first, and sometimes you'll be surprised as to why you don't want to do it. Um, it might not be as clear as you think it is looking at it at the surface.
Yeah. Very cool. You guys want to hit us with a nutshell? Wrap it up, put a bow on it?
Well, I'd say that a good place to start for anybody for the holistic approach is looking at the eight essentials, the lifestyle map, which are purpose, belief, relationships, rest, nourishment, prayer, meditation, getting outside, and movement. Describe what you're currently doing in these eight essentials. And then after you've described what you're doing, simple, or you can make it extensive, whatever you want to do. Ask yourself the two questions to what you're doing. Is it working, and does it make sense? And if the answer is no to either of those questions, write down one small thing that you can do that's going to orient you and push you in the direction that you want to go. And with that one small step, I challenge you and I encourage you to work on that one small step only for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, and see how it evolves, and see how that consistency helps you in your life and your holistic approach to life.
Very cool. Yeah, thank you guys. So many good nuggets in this one. And really cool. Yeah, and I want to reiterate what Sean mentioned, and with the flow and how things can work really fast. And if we're not in our lane, if we're not flowing on the right river that we're supposed to be on, we could be kind of treading water in the wrong direction. Whereas if we get in the right lane, figure out where we're supposed to be, just flow along with it, man. And it could be a freaking rapid ride, and it could be awesome. There's gonna be bumps and craziness, and we could be scared, and we could get our heart can drop. Also, we're so scared, and that might be something that we might not want to do. But hey, that's the path that we're put on. And to tie what you guys are putting together and kind of wrap it up in a metaphor. Yeah, there's going to be things that we don't want to do that are aspects of our life purpose here. And it creates discipline and wisdom. And yeah, it's a magical place we live in. So long as we play with it, play into it the way we're meant to, we're here to do.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. All right, guys. Thanks for the chat tonight. It was great being here with you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.
What about any tidbits from you, Sean? Any last closing ideas, thoughts, feelings, intuitions? We heard from Hickmeister. We heard from me. Anything last from you?
Spoken. I'm complete. Thanks for asking.
All right, guys. See you next Monday. Thanks for tuning in. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your week.